So, good morning or good night, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to another interview of the Shield Dude on a Couch. I'm your host, Hector, and tonight I'm joined by Bobby Pook, and he's the lead singer, and he also plays guitar for the band Blanket. They're a band from the UK who, like, you can, like, the sound has evolved in the free albums that you guys have. So, first of all, Bobby, how are you?
I'm good, man. How are you, Hector?
I'm great. I, I, I remember I listened to Mother Escapism, the album that you put out a few years ago, and when I started listening to Ceremonia, which for I know that's in Spanish, you put a Spanish title to your record.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, I know, yeah.
yeah, which means ceremony for people that that don't know
Yeah.
Spanish. So when I'm listening to Modern Escapism and this one and the first album, I know the first album you guys sang less. It was more of like an instrumental project, but then on Modern Escapism, you were bringing more vocals and you had a lot of guest vocalists on that record.
Yeah.
But it felt more like this Ceremonia feels like your most accessible album, but in a good way, because people hear accessible and they're like, oh no, they have sold out. But I think this album is a great mixture of uh alternative rock, shoegaze, and like the modern like rock type of metal almost that you were
hmm
doing on Modern Escapism. So yeah, Bobby, like how would you characterize, when you were did Modern Escapism and you were working on this follow-up,
Well,
how did you want it to like maybe evolve the band's sound?
so definitely, we put less emphasis on stuff like drum replacements and vocal tuning and editing and stuff like this. So for Ceremonia, we wanted it to be. I mean, we were just jamming in our drummer Lucas's studio here in Blackpool. So the vibe we were getting in that room was a raw kind of rock band loud in a room. So that's kind of what we wanted with the whole thing. And those songs just came out of that. I mean, Modern Escapism was all written on it was all written on laptops first with like program drums, and then we would add bits and edit, and then in the studio we would do the same, and we wanted a very clean production for that. And I've always been listening to a lot of Deftones and bands like this, so obviously that comes through on Modern Escapism.
I love Deftones.
Yeah, how can you not?
There's people that don't
So
love them.
I have to admit, I'm not like a massive fan of all the records, to be honest, but I am a huge fan of a few of the records, like every single song on a few of those records, like White Pony in particular. Um, so yeah, for Modern Escapism, that's what was going on there, I guess. And we actually wrote a whole album for Modern Escapism, that we were signed to Sony at the time, and they basically I don't even mind saying they basically did, like, weren't into the album that we handed in, which was very like it was very like Bon Iver, that album, like it was kind of chill, lots of nice melodies, lots of singing, lots of vocoder, stuff like this. Like I say, very Bon Iver. Um, so we kind of got a bit fed up with it, and I kind of went back to, it was winter at the time, and I just thought, you know what, I'm going to draw on these inspiration, like Deftones, maybe even Converge, bands like this. Um, so that's how Modern Escapism came around. And Ceremonia was jamming in a room, and we'd all plug in and we'd play like a Nirvana cover or something, because everyone knows how to play like In Bloom or something like that.
Wait, not I can't play it. So
Yeah.
I can't play anything. So that's why I
But
keep
at least
interviews.
most people that can play guitar, I guess, like they when like, I guess quite a lot of people's early riffs when they learn guitar are like Smells Like Teen Spirit and stuff like this. So like,
Or
yeah, I
Green Day.
mean, Oh, Green Day, which I used to like. That's what got me started playing guitar was bands like Green Day. To be honest, like Dookie era, Nimrod. I think after Nimrod I lost interest, but yeah. So we were just jamming out in the room, man, and that's how it comes. Our drummer Lucas hits really hard, and his style of drumming is, to be honest, his style of drumming is very Dave Grohl. I think so on Ceremonia, the drumming is very hard hitting. There is technicalities in there, but it's big rock drums, which is what I love.
Yeah,
Um,
especially on a song like Loom. We should, if you put the B on it, it would be Bloom.
yeah, exactly, man. It's all stolen. So like, um, and another thing really is the fact that Simon, the guitarist, was in post rock bands before Blanket, and that's the first album is very post rock that we did. So his guitar style over the top of everything. Every member sort of has an influence on the sound. So even if I wrote a song that was like Ceremonia, the actual song,
Yeah.
is a very alternative rock kind of late 90s, early 2000s vibe to it. But because he has those influences of like post rock and Radiohead as well. I mean, in the chorus of that, he's doing a very Radiohead, Johnny Greenwood type octave strumming in this. So all these influences come together to make this record, man. And like, yeah, I do agree that it is accessible for sure, but I like that it's not too overly tuned and overly sampled, and
No,
it's not too modern. It's raw still, which I
yeah,
like.
it sounds like a band playing together in a room, like that 90s sound. Or what? Because yeah, I was listening to Modern Escapism and like this sounds more polished, more like I
Mhm.
like a laptop and stuff. So for me, I like this sound better. It's not that Modern
Yeah,
Escapism is bad. People be in the comments like how like no, it's not a bad album, but I think on this one you really captured like the essence of the band raw. And
yeah,
sometimes you can sound perfect, but I think this sounds more like a record that when you play it live, it's gonna sound more like you guys playing live. That maybe
yeah.
when you're playing Modern Escapism, it's not gonna sound as clean sounding as it sounded on the record. So to me, that's a win. I come
You
from a
know what?
generation of people that love that type of bands.
You know what? That's like a good point, and it is very true as well that like modern escapism songs are very hard to make sound like modern escapism live because there's vocal layers, there's synths, there's clean production, whereas Ceremonia live sounds like Ceremonia an album because that's literally what it is. Like there's a few overdubs, there's like bits here and there, but apart from that, that's like what we do live is what's on record, and I love it, man. Like lots of fuzz pedals, lots of 90s fuzz pedals, lots of big muff pedals, stuff like this. So even, like you mentioned shoegaze and stuff like
Yeah,
bands
a
like
song like
Ride.
Porcelain is one of the more like shoegazier tracks because to me I think I described it when I did the joint album review that I did with John Gasha. The sound that you guys have now they have a name for it. It's grunge gaze. It's
Grunge gaze, yeah.
like you just called it alternative rock back in the 90s.
Yeah, yeah, but I agree. Like alternative rock is for sure what I would still call it. Like I
Yeah.
hate all this new genres. There's like new gaze. Have you heard this? Like new gaze, like NU gaze.
Oh, because they're mixing new metal with shoegaze. Yeah, and
Yeah.
there's black gaze and there's just
Black
gay.
gaze, yeah.
Um,
It's so weird. Like why?
I'm waiting for
Like
rap gaze, where it's
yeah,
just
that's
like
the next
rapping
thing,
with like
man.
some fuzzy pedals and stuff. And
Some like big guitars. We were saying the other day, and I said on an interview yesterday that something that we tried to do on this record, which I think like other bands could for sure do as well, and I think it would be amazing, like is this 90s like Britpop type influence, like even
there's some
the
of that
English
on the
like
record as well.
hell yeah. I mean, like we're from the northwest in England, so we're like an hour away from where Oasis grew up, and like the Verve and Seahorses and all bands like this. Like most. you know, most if not half are like northern bands, like up where we are, not really London. So that was all influenced. That's what I used to listen to in school. So that was for sure influenced. And we were saying the other day how it would be amazing if someone did like a Death Heaven style blast beat album, but used all these 90s Britpop influences. I just think it'd be genius, like if someone did that.
Well, Death Heaven did an album that sounded like it had some Smashing Pumpkins sound to it, but yeah, I heard some Britpop too. And for me, growing up in the 90s is when I got into music. So I was
Yeah,
there's two places in the world that inspired me as a fan, and it was Seattle and England, because I
yeah,
had all those bands in Seattle that I love, and even then you had Smashing Pumpkins and some other bands that had that sound, but they weren't from Seattle. But I remember really got into like this type of music because of Seattle and England. I love me some Nirvana, Pearl Jam, but I also love me some Oasis, some
yeah,
Bush, who
yeah, yeah, yeah.
they didn't get much love when they got more love in the States, but I used to love them too. So yeah,
Me
it's
too, me too.
two places that really and still the UK. There's so many great bands that come from the UK, and heavy metal was born in the UK.
For sure it was, and people always say this about Black Sabbath and stuff, but I do think it's kind of true. Is it's there's a lot of working class people here, and the weather is miserable, and it reflects in the music. That kind of there's that kind of wanting to get out maybe of small towns and stuff like this that reflects in it, and there's just the grit of it. I think is definitely like apparent in some of the music for sure. Are you into any bands like Hum?
Of Home, Failure.
Yeah, yeah, all these bands, man. This is
Oh
what we
yeah,
were listening to for Ceremonia.
yeah, Hum. Yeah, Hum is a great band because there's an example of a band that mixes like alternative, like hard sounds with shoegaze elements. And I know we mentioned Deftones, but I think Deftones is one of the bands that when they started like getting some shoegaze elements to their what I don't count Deftones as a new metal band. To me, they're just Deftones. But
Yeah,
they
me too.
they got some like on Kwai no Yokan. They're more like shoegazier album, and some people were like, "Oh, that's too soft." And I
Yeah.
remember having arguments with people about people saying that like Korn versus Deftones, and I used to like Korn better when I was growing up, but no, Deftones is my favorite band after all these years. Like I challenge anyone, Deftones hasn't put out a bad record.
No,
Even
they haven't.
the one that Gore could be the one that's
Yeah, yeah.
the less good, it's still better than half the shit out there.
Yeah, plus a couple of songs on that are still amazing as well. I agree that like the full records maybe aren't, they're not hitting the marks like the other ones, but even on Gore, there's like some absolute like quality songs. But yeah, yeah, I agree. Like all those bands like Korn and stuff, I don't think really stood like the test of time. I mean, I listen to them now at the gym for a lull, like it's like
Well,
kind of energetic, like
there's
got
some albums good, but there's some that aren't as great. So going back to Blanket, uh, in this album, I would characterize this as an alternative rock band because you have a song like Nuclear Boy Scout, and that's more
Mhm.
on the emo pop punk almost.
and
Yeah,
and Cave In as well, right?
yeah, yeah, because it's got that cave in, but also with the emo, but harder. And you have a song like Kaleidoscope, which is more fast paced, and it's got like a this type of chorus that stays in your head. I wanted to
Yeah.
ask since you write most of the lyrics, right, Bobby?
Yeah, yeah, all of them for this album,
Okay.
yeah.
So Kaleidoscope, what's that song about?
Oh man, I'd like sometimes I just write lyrics and I don't really know, but like I think
Those are the best ones.
yeah, I mean to be honest, what I do is like we write a song and then I kind of mumble lyrics over it and then some songs might be about something like Nuclear Boy Scout is about something. It's about this kid in America that built a nuclear reactor in his mum's garage and stuff, and like the FBI had to come and like shut it down. And so that is
Isn't
about something that's like.
is that Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory?
Is that what he does in that? I don't know.
Yeah, he
But
said
yeah,
in an episode or something like that that he did something like that.
oh, well, that'll be what it's from, man. Like, I can't remember what this guy was called, but there's videos of it on YouTube. If you type in like nuclear Boy Scout or whatever on YouTube, you get all these like info videos on this
I'm
crazy
sure
kid
it
who
was
did it.
inspired by many things, and I think I've heard that story.
But something like Kaleidoscope is probably a like a specific feeling or like moment in time. Like I just get the vibe from Kaleidoscope that it's maybe like a slow motion like club kind of scene, like loads of lights going on and kind of everything's got those echo trails, and it's sort of like a more like a vibe, like those lyrics. So it's, yeah, I think maybe the album's half, like half might be a specific like emotional vibe and half might be about something, or I definitely use the Oasis trick of writing songs that kind of aren't about anything but also might be about something, and you kind of
Nirvana did
disguise
that
them,
as
like,
well.
oh yeah, of course, yeah, and
And
they're the masters, man.
yeah, when I kaleidoscope, because I know a kaleidoscope is those telescopes or miniscope that you have the colors. So I'm
Yeah,
thinking
yeah,
it's like maybe this is my interpretation, because music is you know, when you write a lyric, you know that it means something to you, but it may mean something to someone else. Well, so
yeah,
kaleidoscope, I was like interpreting it as like looking at a situation from different angles.
yeah.
Yeah, like maybe
Yeah,
like,
it could be like on that you ever played that computer game like Cyberpunk?
I've
So
never
in that it,
I
so
have.
in that game you can kind of come out of your body and onlook over a situation and move around the room and freeze frame it and stuff like this. So that's, yeah, that I kind of agree that it gives that vibe for sure.
Yeah, you didn't did you couldn't do that with Super Mario Brothers back in the 90s. You had to go from point A to point B. And that was it. Then the video games got more complicated and more stuff. But
Yeah,
uh and I also like that you have a song called Sea of Bliss and you have a reprise and then you play the whole song, and it's more of like you and a piano.
yeah. So that was recorded on a phone, man. Like a voice note.
Oh, oh my God, really?
Yeah, because I think like certain producers and certain artists now, especially, kind of use mentioning Bon Iver again, maybe even Kanye West. They use like they don't do everything in the studio. Like Bon Iver did a lot of that record. 22 a million, is it called? But yeah, they did a lot of that on an OP1, like a little sampler, and was sampling. Billie Eilish even on that album would sample like things that would happen around just on her phone, and then get that audio onto the computer and mess around with it. Which is that Sea of Bliss reprise was like one time in the studio in the Motor Museum in Liverpool, which is this big nice studio. Yeah, we were just there waiting. I was waiting for something to happen. I can't remember, drums being mic'd up, say, or something. So I just put a phone. I thought this would be cool. Like, I'm in a room with a nice piano. Why not like do something? So I just put they had a chamber there, like a stone chamber, like a reverb chamber, like old school. So I put my phone in that, and then I was in the other room, and I just left it recording and kind of did like two takes, I think, and then the second take was the best. That's why you can hear me like walking up to the phone at the end, and I wanted to leave that in.
Oh, that's very interesting. Well, I most of my album reviews, I used to do them on my phone, but my my phone is cracking, so I'm like, I need new equipment. Some people like too much technology. I'm like, I keep it simple, like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
on a couch talking about music. So yeah, that's interesting. And also, you have a song that you finished the album with Final Call, and that's also like more of like uh this epic like ballad, like softer song to
Yeah. We totally chose not to have harmonies or anything on that as well. I mean, we could have gone with that song. We could have had live strings. We could have got cello and violin in there and harmonies, but I think it would have become a little too cheesy and a little too derivative of like what it was supposed to be, which was like kind of give you a vibe of someone with an electric guitar on clean and someone singing, that's it. Like really, there's another guitar in there doing like wild stuff, but yeah, kind of I wanted it to be close feeling. I think
Okay.
it's a good way to finish the album for
Simple
sure.
guitar. Like the best songs are like that. Like a song like for example, Glycerine by Bush. It's just
Yeah,
simple.
tune.
And the guitar. And I saw him play that live, and I was like, oh, this is so awesome. And also
Yeah, he
looking at him, I am thinking, how the fuck is is this man like almost 60 years old and looks so good?
I know. He looks good, man. I wish I looked like that when I was 6. I don't even look like that now. But he plays jazz masters as well. Like he's well known for playing a jazz master, and that's what me and Simon play as well, like in the band. Very shoegaze guitar, like jazz master also. It's kind of sound like it's a weird hard guitar. It's very noisy. Doesn't it's not very good at like metal because it's not very like defined. But yeah, we like those imperfections as well. Like if you're in a bit where you're waiting to come in or something and you hit the strings behind the nut of a jazz master, it gives this like noisy squeal. And Kurt Cobain, yeah, Billy Corgan, all these people have played jazz masters at some point.
Oh yeah, and it's got like that. I call that the '90s sound, and it's
Totally.
interesting because I think the last 10 years there's been a revival of shoegaze and alternative grunge bands. You have bands doing these styles and doing it in a way that's very modern. Like so, I'm sure people have asked you, but the name Blanket, because when I think of a blanket, I think of like it's like you're going like when you're a child and you have this blanket that is like a safety token, or I don't know how you say it, like a safety blanket, like something that
Yeah.
reminds you of a time of being safe.
Yeah, comforting kind of vibe. To be
Yeah.
honest, that name, my friend Simon Arthur, who did the artwork as well, he always used to come up with like good names for things, and like he used to have like a couple of solo projects, or he'd have like a design company that he had or whatever, and all of his naming and his choice of like his taste was very good in things. So anyway, I had a dream one night that I thought he told me that his new project was called Blanket. So I think I woke up and I texted him like, "Did you tell me that your new solo project is going to be called Blanket?" And he said no, but that's a really good name. And I was like, "Fuck yeah, let's do this." So it came to me in a dream, man.
I sometimes think that the best band names is one word, because
Oh yeah, for
if you
sure.
add too much shit to it, it gets complicated.
And
Like
pretentious, and kind of it becomes pretentious and too much. Like I love like one words, and I've always wanted to do a one word album as well, which we've never done before. So like that was my goal for this as well. And I was searching for a one word for ages. I have a massive list on my phone of one worders, and like can't remember even how Ceremonia came about. I think I thought we wanted flowers and we wanted this colorful but kind of muted vibe to it
yeah,
all. And
because the artwork looks like flowers, but they could look like the flowers that you put on top of like a casket. Uh,
hmm
when people die, at least I'm sure for like people buy a lot of flowers and they put them, because they're nice and pretty. But when I die, I don't I don't want people to leave me flowers. Uh, uh, I want people to leave money, maybe leave money for my
yeah,
kids and my family, not
yeah,
flowers.
yeah.
And
But this is that's the interesting thing, right? Is like the flower vibe. It could be considered a very like happy moment, like I don't know, like a wedding or something, or a new child, or it could be like you said, like a funeral or something. So it's kind of like that juxtaposition is quite cool about it,
yeah,
and
because
it
it has
and they
different
look
colors.
yeah, and they look nice, like like we have them on stage now, we have them on the mic stands and everything like that, and it's a cool vibe. I mean, all of our previous album, everything was so dark. Like all the artwork was dark, everything was gray, black. Like so, we just wanted to switch it completely, and we don't ever want to do the same album twice. Really, we wouldn't want to bring out another album that's just the same, and that's part of the reason that I used to get annoyed at bands like Dillinger Escape Plan. Like they like I loved them, and then they bring out an album that I just wasn't that into. Um, but whatever, like at least they're writing for themselves. They're not like going, oh well, people like that album, let's write another one of those. Because then you're not really, I don't know, you're not. I feel like you're not being fully true if you're doing that.
Yeah, I may be in the minority here, but I never really got that much into the Dillinger Escape Plan. There's some cool tracks, but to me, sometimes it was so loud that they could give me a headache.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
But
it's not
stuff
music
like
for everyday listening. You have to be in the mood to listen to the
yeah,
Dillinger Escape Plan.
yeah, and I think I bet that 70, if not 80, sort of 90% of fans of bands like that are total musician kind of nerds. That's it's nerd musician music for sure, I think, above anything else. Like that's why I got into it. I used to try and learn the songs and
Yeah,
yeah,
like Tool, people. I go
Tool's
to
another one.
Tool and I enjoy it because I like the music. But when people musicians start telling me about the time signatures, I'm like, I have no fucking idea what you're talking about. I'm not. I don't know music. I'm a fan, but I'm like,
But
it sounds
in
good.
a way though, you're lucky though because you're able to listen to music in that way, whereas like most musicians, if they're at a certain level, you can't really listen to music the same, and it kind of sucks because you're not able to. So we have certain things that we do to trick ourselves, like me and Simon. If we you play it in the car and stuff like this, and we have to try and play music, especially our own music, and kind of trick your ears a little bit so that you're not being critical. You're not like critically listening to it. You're listening to it like a music listener, like a fan. And
Yeah,
it's really hard, man. Like me and Simon have even tried playing it in another room. So you like connect to a speaker in your kitchen or something and play it, and then try and listen to it that way. Or like if someone else is listening to it, and you get these little glimpses of how it might come across to a listener, and it's really cool because you're like, oh, that's how we sound. Like we have that vibe, but they only come in small bits. Like otherwise, you're kind of clueless. Like I'm just listening to like the snare drum or something like that, like something
yeah.
stupid.
But like when I review albums, I give my idea and I'm like I thought yeah it has some cool parts, but I'm not like talking like criticizing like music techniques because I'm not a musician. So I just tell like what the feeling of the song is and stuff like that. And
That's the best.
try to
I
do it
love that.
yeah and try to do it justice. Uh, but you mentioned something about having the flowers on stage. That is a very 90s thing to do because do you remember when Nirvana did In Utero and they were bringing like like fetuses on stage and they had like
Yeah.
the angel with I remember that concert that they did for MTV for a New Year's and I I bought a great concert, and they 90s band did that stuff. Sometimes that's a criticism with a lot of like a band like I can't stand like 21 Pilots
Yeah, yeah.
or those One
That
Republic, which I think totally suck because they're
yeah,
like
yeah, that shit.
they all sound the same. They sound like very crisp in product. Yeah, the production sounds great, but they're devoid of soul and feeling to me. And that's
Yeah.
what I like about these bands, like Blanket, the other band that I Gouch Away that I reviewed too, that it feels like real fucking music, feeling. Uh, and
Yeah.
that's something that after the 90s, when we got bands like Nickelback and stuff like that, and they took everything awesome about the 90s and put it down a shitter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they watered
For
it
sure.
down and there were people were like, oh no, this type of music is not good. So I'm glad that in the 2010s we got bands like there's a whole bunch of like a band like Teenage Wrist, Super
Yeah, yeah.
Moon, there's a band called Soft Cold. There's so many bands doing it, but awesome and in a way that the feeling when I listen to this record Ceremonia, I find a lot of feeling. And I wanted to ask you about the title Ceremonia. Uh, what did it mean to you, and why Spanish? Because you can put it ceremony, but I think ceremonia sounds cooler.
And that's exactly why it's ceremony, just because it sounds cooler. I
I
think
speak Spanish. Everything in Spanish sounds cooler.
it does, man. You know the comedian Tom Segura?
No, actually I don't know him. Yeah.
Oh, you need to check him out, man. He's like an American comedian, but he's also like his mom's Spanish, so he's like half Spanish, I guess. And
Oh, maybe
yeah,
I've
he
seen
does
him, but I don't know his name. Yeah.
yeah, he does comedy in like both languages. So he'll do shows like around like Spanish speaking countries, and like yeah, he'll do whole sets in Spanish. It's really cool. I think that there was a lot of like New Order influence on the artwork for this. And do they have an album called Ceremony, maybe? I can't remember. And I think maybe it's one with flowers. But yeah,
Not
there's
copyright.
a
You
lot.
can have flowers on your on your artwork.
Yeah, we can have it. Again, like the influence comes from everyone, and I think Simon Arthur, the artist, always like kind of gives me ideas as well when I speak to him. And to be honest, I can't remember why it was going to be Ceremonia. I think I was looking at like different languages of different words, like that list of
Because
one word titles that I had.
ceremony can be different things. Like a ceremony could be like a wedding, funeral,
Yeah,
a graduation. That
yeah.
word ceremonia has many meanings in Spanish.
Okay, cool. And I think I liked that it was like open-ended like that also.
Yeah.
And it left stuff to the imagination of like whoever's like reading or listening to it. And I think that those situations are all kind of weird situations as well. I think that's what I liked about it. Like if you look at a wedding or a funeral in particular, kind of strange, like sometimes they're nice, sometimes they're not, but they're weird. Like if you take a step back and look at us all gathering,
Yeah.
all these human beings gathering in one place to do this thing, it's like, I don't know. I've always felt kind of strange at things like that. Like I read the eulogy for my granddad's funeral like 2 months ago, maybe, and it's just it's a weird a weird vibe. Like I was fine. I read it and it was all good, and like he asked me to read it, so I did it. But I'm the same at weddings. I have like a strange feeling. Like I look around me and people are at weddings, obviously not funerals, are having fun or whatever, and like smiling, laughing. They just make me feel not bad and just uneasy and kind of like strange, I would say. So that's where this vibe came from, I
There's
would say.
actually a famous painting here in the University of Puerto Rico that it's about it's a wake. So it's a wake in all like in 1800 years in Puerto Rico, and there's the child who's dead in the middle, and then there's people like eating food, doing all stuff. So and there's only one person like paying attention to the boy that just has died, and everyone else in his world. It's a great painting. I
Yeah,
can't
that
remember
sounds cool.
the name out of the top of my head, but it's a very famous painting from Puerto Rico, and it's called, I think it's the name escapes me because it's in Spanish. But if you Google it,
You
you'll
need
find
to I
it.
was
Yeah.
gonna say, yeah, you need to like email it me so I can have a
I
look.
will
It
email so
sounds
you can look at that because it's a great image, and it is all because people, back in the day, maybe not our like people would have a wake for 3 days because sometimes you didn't know if someone was dead or catatonic. So that was the
oh
reason.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
the reason for you to do the wake to see if like after 3 days, if they don't wake up, they're like, yes, they're definitely dead. They haven't woke up. But yeah,
Oh,
that's what
there's
they
oh,
did.
there's that weird I don't know if this was for sure America. I know English Victorian people used to do it, but there was that whole thing of taking photos of dead people as well. Like when your family members died or whatever,
That's
you
creepy
would
as
like
hell.
dress. Yeah, so creepy, man. You would dress them up and like
You
take
know
photos
what
of
they
them in the
did in
chair.
Puerto Rico, man? Puerto Rico, it's a special place. They were doing where people were dying. For example, there's this guy that died and he loved playing domino. So they put him like he's playing domino. and people would take pictures of him like playing domino.
Yeah, like, hey.
Yes. And then there was a guy in a motorcycle, and the funeral homes were saying like, stop this shit.
Yeah,
People
yeah.
asking for some weird shit. Like, we can do this. Like we can like what I would do if for my death, I would like before that I would record some stuff, and like it would be cool
Yeah.
when people pass pass next to me and be like, hey, don't mind me, I'm dead. But like, and people would be like, what the hell? Like, it would be.
Yeah, dude. You know what I always thought was a really cool like funeral scene was that Man on the Moon, you know, that Jim Carrey film about
Yes.
Andy Kaufman.
Yeah.
That whole ending where he like presents it like a show, like he's pre-recorded it or whatever. It's like brings a tear to my eye, that scene, but it's yeah, that's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, for mine, I would just play my YouTube videos.
Yeah,
play,
that's it.
play them, but yeah, but yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting subject. A lot of people don't talk about funerals, but yeah, it's a life it's a cycle.
It's part of life, man. And I've always been open with stuff like that, like talking about like family members' deaths and stuff like that. It's part of life. Like, yeah, certain things are upsetting and stuff, but you can't just ignore that stuff and talk about like the nice things that happen. You just like, they're all human emotions. So, why not?
Yeah, no, I think people can obviously relate to that. So before I let you go, and since we've talked a lot about the 90s, uh, like let me know what 5 albums. I said 4, 5 albums from. I put 4. I'm like, it's 5. What 5 albums maybe from, since we took it from the 90s, like really like touch you or influence you?
I mean, obviously, some of these are not gonna be blanket influence, but for sure, like Dookie by Green Day was the first album I got into after. So that's one of my albums.
Yeah, that's a great.
That was the so good, man, and the playing on it is so tight, and that was before drum sampling, vocal tuning, and it's just amazing, man. I still love it to this day.
And I saw Green Day live, and they played a lot of that album.
I'm jealous, man. I wish I would have gone to more shows when I was younger as well, because I probably had the chance to see this stuff and just like didn't for whatever reason. But they were the band that got me out of indie. So my second album would be What's the Story Morning Glory by Oasis, which was, I just remember buying it on CD from HMV and just listening to it probably on repeat every day for the entirety of maybe year 8 or 9 of school.
That's my favorite Oasis album.
Yeah, me too, man. A lot of people like go on about Definitely Maybe, and don't get me wrong, it is cool, but I feel like Definitely Maybe has it's more like inconsistent and kind of weird. It's got like tracks that kind of like don't sound like the part of the album to me. Whereas What's the Story Morning Glory starting out with that Hello, that Gary Glitter cover, which is kind of a sketch these days, but it's such a good cover though. All the way through, it's amazing when they did that live at Main Road and Earl's Court, those famous big live shows. It just blew my mind. Like what they were sort of wall of noise as well. Like even though it was indie, it was very, big, and Noel Gallagher wouldn't let the bassist play on any other string other than the top string, so that it gave this wall of noise. Like if he saw the bassist go to like another string, he was like, nope. Like you got to stay on that one top string, so everything's big. Yeah, that's what he was like, and I love stuff like that. Like I try and not be that much of a knobhead to my band members, but yeah.
I think interviewing either Liam or Noel would be hard.
Yeah, I've met Noel Gallagher, man. I film artists for a job, and yeah, I filmed Noel Gallagher a couple of times. He seems nice, man. He's just into like football, and he's seems like a good guy.
Can't they just like get along? Your brothers, make up, do an
Oh
Oasis
man.
reunion.
And imagine the money, man. Imagine the money that they could make. They or anyone they knew would never have to work again. Well, they probably don't anyway, but hey, by the way, before I tell you my third album, this is my dog, David.
Oh, hey, David.
Hello, everybody.
Maybe he
He's a
could
little
be
sausage dog.
He can be in the 4th album, the cover. Just have David in the cover.
I always get him to hold the records and stuff, like when we release a new album and get a photo with him. Um, so what's that, two?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Pixies Doolittle.
Good choice. Yeah.
That was another one from my youth, like when I was super young, like really young, like someone's uncle showed me that album. And I don't know, I guess that just opened my mind up to like weird ways of writing songs.
Yeah. The Pixies, they have that great bass tone to them. Yeah.
Yeah, and just go in. I mean, obviously DeBeza has been that's like a staple for so many big rock songs that, like I guess you got Stilt Skin Inside, Smells Like Teen Spirit. All these songs are kind of just DeBeza but reworked.
Mhm.
Like, hey, maybe Stilt Skin Inside was before DeBeza though. Maybe I'm wrong.
The comments will correct us. So
Yes, someone correct me. Someone correct me. It probably is, but anyway, yeah. I'm probably gonna have to put Nirvana Nevermind on there because that was another one that really like
I have it on
blew
my,
my mind when I
I
was
have
young.
that one on vinyl, the special edition that they put out.
Dude, and I could still listen to all of these albums. I could probably still listen to today, and I've not grown tired of them. Um, my fifth and final one is a bit of an oddball one, but this is another one that I would still listen to now, and it's Propaganda, Today's Empires, Tomorrow's Ashes.
Yeah,
Um,
that's more punk. Yeah.
definitely more punk, but kind of like prog, a little bit proggy. And hey, we said 90s, didn't we? Maybe it's not 90s. Maybe it's late 90s, though. I'm not sure. Again, someone correct me in the comments.
Like it's somewhere around there. But yeah, those are great choices. And the 90s, there's so many great music that came out, different stuff. But yeah, I almost
Yeah.
have all of those albums on vinyl myself. So yeah,
I'm jealous, man. I'm jealous.
they're all great. Well, I'm not buying them anymore because they're very expensive to buy vinyl. Like I try to support
Yeah,
music
we
as much as I
we
am.
we we had to buy so if we want to order vinyl off like our old labels or whatever, we would need to buy them like because we don't own them, like the label owns them. This isn't the same for the label that we have now, but our old labels.
Yeah, you're in
So we would
Church Records now, right?
Church Road, yeah, they're
Church
they're
Road.
great. Like, but that's like an indie label, so everything's kind of, I spoke to Justine before, who she's from Employed to Serve, the band. She's the singer.
Oh yeah,
So
that's a great band. Yeah.
yeah, so good. And like that's just the type of label that you can message, you can just message them and say, like, oh, what about this? Or should we do this? And it's fine. Whereas like a bigger label, you would have to go through different people. And yeah, it's a lot. Well, it's a different way of doing things. So we would, going back to vinyl, we would have to buy the vinyl ourselves, like of our album, we would have to buy it. And it was expensive even to buy. It worked out at like £15, €15 per vinyl. And then you would have to then sell that and you'd want to make some money on it, right? So like, you sell it for like 20, 25, even I've seen them for 30 now.
Oh yeah. They resell them. And yeah, it's crazy. I know the album is out now, so I'll put the link for people who want to buy it physically. I'm sure
Amazing.
is the does the album end? I'm guessing the first half, does it end with Sea of Bliss and then you start with Loom on the second side?
Yeah, I think so. You know what? I haven't even got a vinyl player, so I've not even listened to it on vinyl. I have the vinyl right here, but I haven't listened to it on vinyl yet. I've got a lot of friends that do, but yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's been great. Even the vinyl itself, I don't know if you've seen, but it has like a die cut sleeve. So the word ceremonia is in die cut, and then the
I saw
flowers
posts where you put it. Yeah.
it comes out, and it's like even that itself. Like I've always wanted to do cool stuff like that, and Church Road Records like let us do stuff. We were like, oh, we think pink, like a baby pink, and you could have little bits of gold in it, which is like what they went for on one of the pressings. So cool, man. Like I'm happy that we get to do stuff like that and it gets to release. And I'm happy that people buy this stuff. And like I think the CDs are sold out now, which is also crazy. I didn't think anyone bought CDs.
Yeah. Well, back in the 90s, it was all CDs. Then it all goes back into a cycle. So What's next for Blanket? Do you have any shows coming up?
Yeah, we have festivals all of this summer. We have Make a Scene Festival. We have Desert Fest, which is really cool in London. Like loads of cool bands playing that. King's Fest and Burn It Down Festival as well. Most of all, we have a headline. We have the Ceremonia headline tour in the UK, which is in October. So
Nice.
we'll be playing pretty much the full album at all dates, and we hit all the like Leeds, London, Manchester, Birmingham, and Glasgow, and maybe another couple. I'm forgetting Bristol, I think. So that's the big one for us. That's going to be like, if not that I want to stress about this too much, but yeah, if those shows are like good and people have heard the record, then that means it's like, it makes it a lot more worthwhile for us, like doing this thing. This is like a big part of our lives, like the group chat and everything. And it does take a lot of time, like doing this stuff, and we care about it. We're passionate about it, which is why we put so much of our time into it, and it's cool.
Everything with
But
passion
yeah,
takes time. Doing this, what I do takes time. And
of course, yeah, it's the same thing though, right? And if
yeah,
you didn't have that, like if people don't have these things, like if they just go to their job and come home and do nothing, I don't understand how people like carry on happily in their lives without having their thing. Like this is your thing, and that's super cool. And like I don't think I could not have the band. Like I just you need that creative outlet, right? You need that like
yeah,
inspirational like thing. Like
yeah.
yeah,
Not everything
gotta
is
have it.
fun. Obviously, it's good to get paid to do stuff that you love, but if that's your only reason for doing it, that's the wrong reason. Uh,
It's the wrong reason.
it's the wrong reason.
Yeah,
So,
and it's the mental health and stuff as well. If you're using your creative muscles and you're giving you're getting the gratification, aren't you, from doing something. Like for you, you're speaking to someone, you're uploading it, people are interacting with each other and commenting. It's like that's cool. Like that's yeah, I really don't understand how people don't do these things in their life. You got
yeah,
to
I
have a
mean,
thing.
everyone should have a passion project or a hobby, and you never know when it can turn into something great. So, Bobby, I want to thank you for taking some time of your night to chat with me about the album Ceremonia, about music, the 90s stuff in general. It was a fun chat. And people, Blanket Ceremonia is out now. So if you like great alternative rock, this is a great alternative rock band with lots of feeling. They have two albums before this one, but I would say if you want to check them out and you haven't heard them, I think Ceremonia is a good starting point, especially if you like that. But obviously, check out the back material as well. So, Bobby, anything you like to say to the fans before we go?
Just like, yeah, thank you for checking us out. Like, we have new stuff all the time. We're going into the studio again to write more music. So, yeah, like, follow us on social media and, interact with us. We always message back and stuff. So, yeah, thank you, Hector. It's been awesome.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for joining me virtually today on the couch. So, until next time, people, this is Hector, the Shield Dude on a couch, and I'll see you all right here on the couch. Thank you and goodbye.